there was a moment where I drowned in a pool. I was about 5 years old, but I remember struggling and with the confusion of what's happening. Why can't I, what's going on? And then there was just a moment after struggling because I was submerged in the water. I felt myself let go. And I suppose that's when I floated to the bottom of the pool. And then suddenly I was standing not in my body, but in a very white room. The room was white, the walls were white. There was no sense of depth in the room. It was just that I was in this place and I was looking sort of up and I had this sort of expectant feel like I was waiting for something.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today my guest is Krishnapriya Neumann, and she is an intuitive and a channeler. She's a spiritual teacher. She teaches mantra, nada yoga, and meditation. She was born and raised in the United States, and currently she resides in Rishikesh in India, in Parmarth Niketan Ashram, where she is living her life dedicated to spirituality and service, also service to street dogs that she loves and she feeds every day. Hello, Krishna Priya.
Hello. So nice to see you after some time, after a few months.
Yes, I met Krishna Priya during the trip to India that was dedicated to a documentary series about women of India, and that's how we connected. And then I decided that I would like to talk with you.
I'm so glad. Yeah.
So before we begin, I would like us to maybe if you can close your eyes for a moment, and if you are driving, then just focus on your breath for a moment and just take a few conscious, deeper breaths into your belly, grounding yourself, feeling your body, maybe sitting up, maybe lying down. Feel your physical form. Feel yourself in the space. And for a moment, feel your heartbeat. That place that connects you to love, to the source, that is connecting that which is above with that which is below. And the place that is the seat of service in the world. Maybe you can feel that heartbeat connected to the rhythm of your breath, and those two rivers intertwining, heartbeat and your breath in your body in this moment, the only such moment in the existence. And when you are ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back into this space. And my first question is, what is spirituality to you?
Oh, very good question. To me, for me, it's a desire. It's the desire to know yourself in the place of the universe and who you are in relationship to God and relationship to everything else. And it's the seeking of that. It's the seeking of that understanding and that knowing. That's how I would say it. Yeah.
I listened to some interviews with you, and you said that you've always had this desire to know God.
Yeah. Really from a very young age, I God seemed to me like it shouldn't be far away, because when you're growing up if you go to church, and we weren't church going people, really. We went on important times, Christmas and Easter and things like that. But it was always God was somewhere that you prayed to, like, hello, can you hear me? For me and myself, I never felt that that was true. I felt like it had to be closer to be told that you should have such a love for God. I thought, how can I love something that I can't experience or connect to or see? And so there was just this very strong belief in me that it had to be different than that. Just logically in my childhood brain, I thought, no, this is not what you're telling me is not the whole truth. And if you're not going to tell me the truth, then I'm going to figure it out, kind of was the idea. Because I did love God, and I thought, why do I love this thing that I can't access? And so the drive was to find out how to access that. And then through several experiences in my life, I started to really be able to access that. And then it was just like, well, I knew it. I knew it, but then it became more about so once you know that you can access that, then it's like the question is, what do I need to know? How do I need to live my life? What should I be doing? But if the first drive was, where is this God that everyone talks about? And how do I get to know this being? I would have said him. How do I get to know God? This him? Yeah.
So could you share the experiences that led you to that?
Yeah. So there was a moment where I drowned in a pool. I was about 5 years old, and 5 or 6 years old. I was a little dancer, at a dance school, just like every 5-year-old. And we had a pool party that one of the girls in the class had. It was her birthday. And we were all in the pool splashing around. And there was a girl who couldn't swim. And she was sort of holding on to the side of the pool, and she would push off, and then she would grab the side, and she'd push off and she'd grab the side. And I was swimming right beside her. And one time she pushed off and she got too far and she grabbed onto me. And so I remember it's very interesting because it feels like it's in pictures in my mind, but I remember struggling and with the confusion of what's happening. Why can't I, what's going on? And then there was just a moment after struggling because I was submerged in the water. I felt myself let go. And I suppose that's when I floated to the bottom of the pool. And then suddenly I was standing not in my body, but in a very white room. The room was white, the walls were white. There was no sense of depth in the room. It was just that I was in this place, and I was looking sort of up, and I had this sort of expectant feel, like I was waiting for something. And there was just a feeling of like real peace. And there was a kind of music that was more like how when someone puts on the synthesizer and they push down all, they make a chord and they make the buttons, it's got that hum that's to it. But it was ethereal, and it was the sound that sort of was everywhere. And I was just waiting and waiting. I wasn't afraid, but I was expectant. That's all I can tell you. And then the next thing I know, I'm choking up water on the side of the pool. And and then it was just all the parents and everyone standing over me, very concerned and, making sure I was okay. And then that was the experience. But then it was something clicked in that moment that I really knew that there was something else. And so my desire, which had always been there, but when you're 5 and you're younger, it's hard to communicate these desires that you have. But then it became very much like, no, I know that I can talk to God. I can reach God. And then people would say, well, they used to talk to God in the Bible, but they don't do that anymore. That would be the answer. And I just thought, no, that's not true. That's not true. And so I would like, I don't know. There's something in me that thinks that no is like the opening negotiation of an argument. I don't take no easily as an answer. And so I would figure, well, God can talk to me. I can talk to God. So I would just talk to God and I would say, why won't you talk to me? Why won't you talk to me? And this went on for, I guess, several years. And then there was a moment where I was 7 or 8 and I was walking on the railroad tracks at my grandmother's house. She lived up in the mountains and there was these railroad tracks and I used to walk along and throw coal and just, I was just a little kid. And then I was again in this thing of why won't you talk to me? I want to talk to you. And all of a sudden I heard a voice in my head, not outside. It said, we're here and we love you. Ask us anything you want to know. And then I was like, I was suspicious at that point. I was like, who are you and why are you saying this to me? And they said, we're here to guide you. And I thought at the moment, okay, this is God. But it wasn't God. It was my guides saying, and they did say later, that they were my guides and they weren't God. But I was very excited. And so then I started asking questions and they said, we'll teach you what we want you to know. Because I was like, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? And so little instances started happening where I would have these sort of, now I can say, I wouldn't have said it at the time because I would have had no way to know this terminology, but I started getting these sort of quick downloads where all of a sudden I would know something, just really, really know it. So there was a time where in my house in that time, we had this sort of cedar closet. I don't know if you know what a cedar closet is. Mm-hmm. It's a closet that's lined with cedar wood, and it's supposed to keep out moths, and it has a very special smell to it. But that's where our Bible was. And I was still thinking in terms of the Judeo-Christian, version of God, because that's all I knew. And I was going to the closet and I was like, what do I need to know? And they said, well, go get your Bible. So I had to go in this big closet, and this is how religious we are. Pull out this big box and like dig in the box and pull out the Bible that was also in a box and open it up. And in my mind, it was huge, but actually, I looked at it not so long ago. It was only like this big, but in my mind, when I was little, it was big. And they just said, open it and read the first thing you see. So I know I could read by this point because I opened the Bible and I looked down and I just saw a verse in the Bible. And I read it and it said, if man says he loves God, but hates his neighbor, he is a liar. For how can you love God who you have not seen and hate your neighbor who you have seen? And so I put the little ribbon, and then thing, and I shut the Bible and they said, that's all you need to know. And so I was like, okay. So I put the Bible in. And so I had that happen. And then I had other things happen. Just, they said to me, always ask yourself, is this love or not love? To look through that lens of like, is this love or not love? Is this something acting as not love? They didn't call it hate. They didn't call it anything. They just said love or not love. It's either in love or it's not in love, which I could say now that's in alignment or out of alignment, but that's not. So I started to look at everything through that perspective of, is this love? Is that not love? Is this action love? Is that action love? Are those words love or not love? That's really how I started to look at life and things and situations.
So who would you say God is today?
I would say God is that I have now today, I would say that God is everything, that God is all. And there's nothing outside the all. And we're part of the all. So I wouldn't say I'm God, but I would say I am within that which is God. There's no separation between myself and God. Only the awareness of who I am separates me. but I'm not able to be. I mean, I am God in the way that you're God. It's just the way that I'm also this chair and that gong you have back there. We're all of it, because it's all, if God is all, then there's nothing but God, right? And so I'm here, you're there. This is, so it's all there. But my guide said to me at one point, they said, just close your eyes and you realize that you're standing in the perfect mind of God, that we are all his creation and imagination, and we're all part of that, but we're not separate from that. We are that.
So if all is God, then what about suffering in
That's
the world?
also God. There's nothing outside. I mean, people say God is all that is, but they don't accept that. They think there's God and then there's other stuff, but it's all there. And the thing with suffering is that there's many levels of suffering. I mean, I can, be really hungry and I say, oh, I'm suffering. I'm suffering because I'm hungry. Or you can be suffering in the most horrific way. But generally things that you would think is like crime and things done on humanity is perpetrated by people in situations that have no clue who they are. They're totally in forgetfulness.
So they are in a way disconnected from God.
They're disconnected from the knowledge,
Mhm.
but they're never not divine. Yeah. So someone said something the other day, which I thought was a really good saying. They said the trauma, maybe the trauma of not knowing who you are, might be the reason, but it's never the excuse. So yeah, it's all God.
Yes, so we can still love those people who are not in alignment with God.
I think we can love them, and we can I don't think we have to love them like, oh, I love you. I think it has to be an acknowledgement of that as a being going through their path and making some really, really bad choices. And the hope is that they also have the awakening to the truth of who they are. And if it's not this lifetime, then it has to be the next one. But it's not, I think God loves everyone. I think Puja Swamiji loves everyone. Total acceptance of everything and everyone. I don't think that I'm quite 100% there, but I'm aware that that person is also divine. I don't know that I necessarily look at them and say, oh, I love you. I know that I react still to the thing, but ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, you can love everyone because we are given free will, and part of the game of this life is having the free will.
Many years ago, I translated a book by Andrew Harvey.
Mm.
It's called Sacred Activism. And there was a scene in the movie where, in a court, there is a mother whose son was murdered by this man who is accused now. And she goes to him and she says that she would like to adopt him as her son now.
Well,
She knows what happened, but yeah, and it's just amazing. And now you say that your guru, you mentioned his name just a few seconds ago, that he loves everyone.
he loves everyone in the way that he knows that, he knows who they are. He knows they're divine. So, I've seen things happen with people where you think, oh, that person should be in trouble. And Swamiji has a different perspective on what should happen to someone or what made them do it. He's like, obviously they're not meditating. Obviously they're not in touch with their inner knowledge. Obviously they're, and so he would always want to give someone the grace to change and reform. And sometimes people do and sometimes they don't. I mean, he's not sitting in judgment of anyone, but what I'm saying is his perspective is you are divine. You may not act it, you may not know it, but you are, and I know that you. That's, and so he will find that deep love of, say, the creator that would only see that person as the divine person lost in the Maya, the illusion of this is real versus other things being real. Yeah.
So you live in an ashram now, and he's your guru.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
say what it means that he's your guru?
So the definition of a guru is that the one who shines the light of the divine on you so that you remember who you are. It's not the guru is divine. So that's where people get in a lot of issues with gurus, because people think the guru is to be worshipped. That's absolutely not the case. The guru is the one that sort of holds the lamp on you and removes the darkness of illusion, and can kind of call you to task and say, you need to look at this in a different way, or you need to maybe pray in this way or think about things this way. And also his life as an example of what it means to really be enlightened is there always sort of shining in front of you. And so you're looking to the guru to dispel the darkness, but it's this darkness that's the darkness of ignorance, not the darkness of sin, and he's shining the light on you for your own realization. So that's what a guru is. He removes through his light, he shines the way, basically, and through his love and everything.
In the last years, there was a lot of talk about guru in different parts of the world and revelation of the horrible things that are doing. And so when we connected to your ashram, we were checking online, for things that might not be aligned in this case, but we couldn't find anything. And I was so happy.
Yeah, me too. Because I don't come from a guru lineage at all. That's not my background. And I hear all the same things other people hear. And my journey, my spiritual journey has always been looking within myself. But then when you meet a real guru, you don't stop looking within yourself. If anything, you're encouraged to go deeper and deeper and deeper. This the only thing Swamiji ever asks of people is that they promise that they will get to know God better every single day. That's the only thing he asks. And he'll say, will you promise you'll do that? He's not saying, give me this, give me money, give me that. It's your duty as a sevak. There's no, and I unfortunately think he's incredibly rare, but he also was, as a child, he met his guru as a child, a very young child. And that's the time when people lived in the forest and stood on one leg and did all the, heavy spiritual practice. But, he is rare. And I'm so fortunate, because the first person that I really ever thought about with a guru thing is when I read Baba Ram Dass's Be Here Now, and he talked about Neem Karoli Baba. And and Neem Karoli Baba, as amazing as he was, used to hit them and yell at them, throw things at them. And I thought, well, I don't know if that's, but they loved him so much. And apparently, and in India, I found out he's an incredible guru, but there's very few. I would say, and this is probably a wrong estimate, but there's probably less than 100 really true gurus in the name guru, that has that name, I would say. And they can be in many, different religions and things like that. But there's very few that are really, truly enlightened and have not succumbed to seeking power and fame and name and all of these things. It's a very, it's just like a movie star or a musician. You see them, they're wholesome, they come in, and within a short amount of time, they just get eaten up by the greed and all these things. So I don't think there's anybody that's immune to that. And there's very few people that can actively hold the ideal of what they believe in so strongly that other things can come and they can just be, okay, whatever. But that's what we learn in meditation, right? Let it float by, notice it and let it float by. Doesn't mean things like that don't come, but you do just let them float by. You say, oh, okay, I see that, but I'm not tempted by that. That's not something I want, And so he's very rare.
Can you share a little bit about how he became a guru? Because you shared that with us when we were in India.
I can. Is this light thing bothering you? Is
No.
it Bobby? Okay, I have a okay, so I don't know Swamiji's entire story, and he has um, a book, and you can go online and read everything for free on Parmarth Niketan website or pujaswamiji.org website. You can read, but when he was a child, um, his parents were very devout Hindus, and they weren't rich people at all. They were village people, but their child would go to school and have an education. They were sort of, you would say, middle class, but lower middle class, whatever that means in India. But they were very devout. And there was a wandering sadhu who was, at that time, considered a very holy man. And he lived in the jungle, and he would go into meditation for months at a time. And there's a thing in India that the guest is king. So if a guest comes to your home, you give them your bedroom, you feed them, you take care of them, you wash them. They can stay as long as they want. I mean, it's really please welcome, please come. It's such an honor to come. And so this sadhu comes, and his father, of course, oh, you have to stay with us. You have to did people in India say that, oh, please come stay with me, come visit me, come see me. I mean, it's really, and it's real. It's not fake, like, oh, please come. They really would like you to come. It's an honor. And so the sadhu came, and they came into the home, and he was there, and they did puja, which is like a little blessing ceremony, and he was there giving a spiritual talk, and Swamiji at that time was called Muniji, and Ji is, I don't know if everyone knows, but Ji is like a term of endearment. So I would call you Kasya Ji. Just Ji is sort of like, I know you, you're my friend, I like you very much, that kind of idea. And so he was called Muniji, and he saw this man, and his eyes got big, and he just was like, I want to go with you. I want to go with you. I want you to be my guru. And he was little. He was very young. And the guru said, okay, I will come back in a year. And if you're still interested, if this is still something, then yes. And in the meantime, he gave him a mantra or something to chant, and he chanted it every day. And then he came back, and then he was like certain he wanted this life. He wanted to follow him. And so then the guru said, okay, you have to stay in this room. You do nothing but meditate all day, and you can only eat once a day, and you will drink milk and a little bit of little things just to purify the body. And he did it. And so when he came back again, he was allowed to go with the guru. And then he spent many years living in the jungle amongst the tigers and the elephants and everything there that was very dangerous. And his tapasya, his sort of austerity practice, was to stand on one leg for 12 hours a day and meditate in the jungle among the tigers. And he did it. And then Swamiji's extremely smart. He's very smart. And so when he came out, they said, no, you have to go to school now. And he went to school, and he got his advanced degrees and everything. And then he came back, and he was, but still in this sort of path of becoming a sannyasi and following his guru. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I imagine this big man, and then when I saw him, he's just this tiny.
Oh. Yeah. He's small, mighty, I would say.
Yeah.
So he took over the ashram. Go ahead, sorry.
How did you find yourself in the ashram in Rishikesh? Like, how did it happen?
Yeah. So I just also want to say his name. His full name is Pujaswami, or they call him His Honorable Pujaswami Chittanand Saraswati Ji is his name. And then the female is Pujasavi Saraswati, or Bhagavati Saraswati. So I just wanted to say their full, as opposed to just so people know who they are. So the way that I came to Rishikesh was very just, there was no drive for me to go to Rishikesh. There was really no drive in my life to go to India. I hadn't thought about it. I'd been living in the Netherlands for, at that point, about 15 years. And I was, I was seeking spirituality, but more from a sort of new age side. And I met a guy. There was a saint that lives in Kerala called Amma. I don't know if you know who she is. She's the one that hugs everybody. Well, she would come to the Netherlands, and she would come for like 5 days and do a program. And I had met people, and they're like, "Oh, you have to go to Amma." And so I started going, and I went to her, I think, every year for about 7 years. And during this time, so I started to have an awareness of India and chanting and mantra, but I had not encountered it really until that time. And so there was a moment where I made friends with this guy who was from India, and he would go to Amma, and he said, "Oh, you should meet my brother. He's the sadhu. When we have a Zoom call, I will." Or not at that time, I think it was Skype. When we call on Skype, we'll call you and you can meet him. And by this point, I had started to connect with Ganesha in a very strong way, through very serendipitous things. A guy had been dying, and I started praying to his deity, and I ended up being in love with Ganesha somehow through chanting mantra for months and months. But so anyway, the guy came on the Zoom or whatever it was, a Skype, and he was like, "You love Ganesha." And I was like, "Yes, I do." And to me, that was just like the biggest compliment, that like maybe somehow, he noticed that. And then he said, "You have to go to India and you need to learn mantra." And I don't know, there was something in me. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, why
Chills like going up and down.
But he said it in such a way like, "You have to do this." And I was like, all right. I didn't resist, and but I didn't even register. And so within a day or so, I started looking online for learn mantra in India. Literally, I think that's what I Googled. And this class came up with this teacher. And he's like, are you a singer?" I was like, "Yes, I am." They're like, "Do you love chanting?" Well, I'm thinking, "Yes, I do." "Do you want to learn mantra?" "Yes, I do." "Well, come to my class." I said, "Okay." And that's literally what happened. And so I signed up for her class, and there was a part one, and that was in Australia. And then the part two was in India. So in order to be able to go to India to learn the rest of this stuff, I had to go first to Australia, which I did. And then within 6 months, I came to Parmarth, which is where she was teaching, but she didn't live there. She had lived there at one point, but she didn't live there anymore. And when I got there, within the first day, I thought, wow, I really feel like this is my home. But it wasn't like a eureka moment. It was just a very peaceful thing. Like, no, I'm supposed to be here. And that's how it started, just like that.
So how does your life look in the ashram?
So it's interesting because it's very interesting, like when you go to an ashram and you go for a course or you go for a thing, and you're doing all of the things that the ashram does. And it's very different when you're actually living there, and all the things people are doing, you're running, So, but my day now, I get up around 5. I go for a walk for about an hour in the back of the ashram where the yoga halls are. You didn't walk back there because your shoes were messed up. But we have 4 dogs that live back there, and so I play with them and walk with them. And they live at the back there on the ashram grounds. And then I feed them, and then I take a walk in a big, big, giant circle through the Swag ashram area, which is the area around the ashram. And I just do this big walk, and I feed all the dogs on this sort of walk that we have, that I go on. And there's 30 dogs that I'm currently taking care of. And so then after that, I come back to the ashram, I take a shower, and then I eat something, because by this time I'm hungry. It's like 7:30. And so I eat something, and then I sit down and I do a meditation. And then at 8:30, we have our Havan ceremony, which is the fire ceremony that we do every morning. And then from 9:30 till around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'm working. I'm doing social media for the ashram. I'm teaching a class. I'm planning some kind of festival. I'm dealing with YouTube. There's just all kinds of things that we're doing. There's meetings for all kinds of different things. And then later on, I go feed the dogs again. And then I come back and we have arti. And then we have either satsang or darshan, which is darshan's where you sit with Puja Swamiji. And you came to darshan. Yeah, so that's darshan. And usually I don't say anything. I just sit there and then it's time for bed. And I guess usually check on all the dogs again. And I also have 11 cats. I have 11 cats also that I'm dealing with. So yeah. It is very structured, but it's very busy. Like there's always something happening. Like for the RT, there's always some kind of person coming, a VIP or a special group or there's either a festival or something that's happening. So there's a lot of things that are coordinated with that. But yeah, I'm very structured though. I'm very much like, I mean, personally, like I go to bed and get up at the same time every day. That's just me. So I fit well in a structured environment because I like to know what I'm doing, But I mean, there's of course people who come to town and you go out with them or you go see tourist things. But most of the time you're just working and doing your daily activities.
Can you say what arti is?
Arti. Arti itself is holding a lamp of some sort, like usually like lit, like candles or fire burning an oil, and they do like this in front of. You do arti to something, so arti it's a way of honoring by doing the lamp, the light, the fire, which is the purification. It's also the spirit with the smoke and everything coming up. It's honoring whatever you're doing arti to. The arti itself is this movement. So you do arti, like someone will say, "Oh, we're doing arti," and it may just be that to the statue in their home, they're honoring that deity or they're honoring something. They do arti. But what we're doing is we are doing Ganga arti. So we're honoring the Ganga River. And so there's the whole, and that's actually something that Swamiji originated as well, all over India. And now they're also doing arti in different countries. There was a woman I talked to in, where was she? Oh, in Israel. He came to Israel and they did arti in Israel. He's done arti in Dubai. They've done arti in Nepal. They started the Ganga arti in Nepal. They're going to do Ganga arti on the Thames River coming up in September. So arti is spreading, but because there's the belief that all rivers are really Ganga, that all rivers connect to Ganga in some way, their spiritual way or directly. And because Ganga is a goddess in the form of a river, we have to honor her. And the thing about Ganga is that she's giving life. She's giving life to the fish in her, the life in her, the plants in her, she's watering the crop, she's bathing the people, the people are drinking her water. There's so many things that this water is nourishing. And so the idea of the river as the goddess of just, she's always giving, and she's always flowing. She's always the same, but never the same, because she's constantly flowing. So she's honored as a goddess. And so we do arti to the goddess. And it's done every day, even when like right now they're in monsoon and maybe it's so rainy, nobody can be there, but they will go and do Ganga arti every day to Ganga. And what they do is we start off with chanting prayers and mantra, and there's music and kirtan. And then at the time when the sun is setting, that's when the Ganga arti takes place. So that's when Puja Swamiji and Saviji come in, and we sing the different songs that Swamiji leads singing, and we sing, Somse Om Ji Prema Sagai. He sings that, and we sing. That means there's nothing better, there's nothing more auspicious than to love God. There's nothing more than to love God. And so we pray, and then he gives like a little talk, And then we get up and then we actually do the actual arti to the river in honoring the river.
So
And it's also a moment of letting go, it's to say letting go of the things that are keeping you from remembering your divine nature, really. That's what all spirituality is about, remembering who you are and honoring that which is there.
what is your connection to Ganga?
Well, I just, I feel like I knew her. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but when I came to the river, and I had always had an attraction to rivers and to trees and, but I just felt like there was such a cleansing that happens when you're standing in the river. There's just a willingness to sort of just let go, that it felt like you could stand in the river and let everything go. And that's how I always feel. It's always this idea of like, it's washing me clean. And I don't mean clean in the way of like dirt or sin, but just taking away the stuff that we carry so much. And if you're really willing, it becomes very effortless. It's like, I'm just going to give it to Ganga. I'm going to let what are these things that I'm holding on to that I don't need to hold on to. I'm going to let them go. And so that's the connection. And I had a miracle happen on Ganga, which was really interesting. And it had to do with dogs. It was at the Ganga River that I met my first Indian dog and started my relationship with all the dogs. But when I had first moved to the Netherlands, I was living in The Hague. And I don't know if you've ever been to Holland, but they're notorious for their stairs, which are not stairs. They're like this, right?
Like ladders.
Like ladders. And so when I first came to Holland, I came with 2 dogs, my own dogs from America. I brought them and I had this little tiny dog and I had this spiral staircase that went down to my bedroom. And so I had to carry the dog down the staircase and I had a gate so they would never try to go down. But my one little dog could do it, but he had to really go slow and I had to just watch him. But the tiny one, she couldn't do it. And it was a metal staircase with holes in between the steps. So one wrong move, you're going to fall, And so she never, ever went up and down the stairs. But I was walking and I was holding her like this and I slipped. And I was at the place beyond the curb, but where it went straight down. And I had to make a quick decision, hold on to her, but fall, or let her go and catch myself. Well, I wasn't going to let her fall, right? And so I held on to her, but I slid basically on my back down these stairs. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, my hand slammed into the ground, my right hand, and it jammed it in such a way that it was never the same. I couldn't, for about, and I'm not kidding, 22 years, I couldn't shake hands with people. If you grabbed my hand, it would hurt. If I did any cleaning or anything like this, it would hurt. I went to the doctor and they said, we could give you steroids, but that'll probably make you injure your hand more. It's better that you learn how not to hurt yourself, and you're just gonna have to live with this pain. And it would just ache and ache and ache. And so I went through this for 20 years, and if you knew me, you would always see me walking like this because my hand was in so much pain. And so I had been in Rishikesh now for about a year, and I was walking along and I was feeding dogs, and I started to slip on a step. And I fell down, and again, I grabbed with my hand and hit the pavement, really on, how the steps of Ganga are going down on the Ghat. Well, remember when we went over to that one place and I said, this is this dog and this is this dog. And then we went into that store. Well, it was there and I started to slip and I fell on my hands in front of me and really jammed my hand, my right hand. And I was sitting there and people were like, oh, because they saw me tumble. And I stood there for a moment. And you know how you're waiting for the pain to come when you've fallen and you've hit something? I was standing there waiting for the pain to come. And it didn't come. Like there was no pain. And I was just, and you know how you get like this flush of, like if you hit your toe, all of a sudden you get that flush of blood and everything. I felt that flush, but no pain. And so I was just standing there and I was looking at my hand and this dog was looking up at me, and all of a sudden my hand was fixed.
Wow.
Like, I mean, it was amazing. And I was looking at it like, are you kidding me? Is it really? And then I was like, thank you, Ganga, thank you. Because it was right on her. I mean, it was the water of Ganga that I slipped on when I fell on the stairs, and caught myself in my hand. And I could do everything now.
Wow.
But for 22 years, I had to always be careful. And if I had to clean my house, like with any intensity or scrub something or anything, or if I painted, I would be in pain for days, just so much pain from my hand. And yeah. And then it was just not there anymore.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I feel that too. I feel that she's so special and that she's healing. What happened to me, that I had those heart problems when I got back from India. I felt that they were healing, that I had problems, physical problems, but that it was healing on a deep level. And it's because that connection to Ganga.
Yeah, and the heart is also where you hold so much emotion. And, sometimes you're crying, a little from your heart. And maybe that was what was happening. Yeah.
So your ashram is doing a lot of service, and it's a lot of service for women and children. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that makes Puja Swamiji very, very special is that he really does believe in the power of Shakti, the Shakti divine, and the divine feminine energy. He's very much a proponent of that, and he really sees that communities change when women are empowered, when they're educated, when they have access to running water, when they don't have to travel so far to get water, when they have menstrual hygiene products, then girls can go to school. And so we have a lot of programs that we partner with different people like UNICEF and the UN and all of these things where we help bring water into a community, or we do education. We have a lot of schools where we do education for women and girls, giving them training, also boys, but with a very strong focus on girls and women, giving them workable skills so they can earn money, because unfortunately there's a lot of times where the man's not doing anything or able to carry the burden of financial status. But then getting girls educated, and we provide education all the way up until they're ready to go to college. And I remember talking to a teacher and I said, at what point do you know this child is really going to continue their education? And they said if they can get them to the 10th grade, then 90% will finish. But the reasons girls don't finish school is because a parent needs them to work. They want them to sell flowers or work in a shop or something because of the need of the financial need. So plus it costs money to go to school in India. Parents have to pay school fees and they may not have them. Or there's no one to clean the house and they pull the girl in to do that. And so she's not educated. And without an education, she's married off really young. And, it's like a very strange cycle. But Swamiji is very committed to, on every level that he can impact the journey of education and hygiene and, safety and all of these things for families we're working in those areas. So it's quite remarkable. You know, he puts toilets in villages that never had toilets. He puts water where they had to walk more than an hour every day. And who has to walk to get water? Women and girls. So a girl can't go to school if she's getting water, an hour there, an hour back twice a day. You're never going to get an education. But if you eliminate these barriers, then all of a sudden there can be a school in their community that all the children can go to. And if you teach children and girls about menstrual hygiene and what it means to get your period, and they teach them how to sew their own menstrual pads so that they don't have to stay home for a week, because they start staying home and then they miss school and they get behind and then they stop going. So if you eliminate these barriers to those things that will lift the community, it shifts it within a very short amount of time, because all of a sudden these girls who were, not doing anything are suddenly going to college, they're suddenly earning money, the whole family is lifted up out of poverty. And then when one family sees that family was lifted up out of poverty, they push their girls to school. It's got a very strong knock-on effect, and it's really, really exciting to see what they do in that way. And it's incredible. We take it so for granted in the West, that you go to school but there's people that's no option. There's no option. There's a coffee, just to say it as an aside, there's a chai vendor that's down where I feed these other dogs, and there's this little boy and he's not in school. And he's so sweet. And when I come, he helps me feed them and everything. And I always say, oh, is he going to go to school? Oh, yes, sometime. And I've tried to give them some things like, oh, you could maybe go to our school. But if there's no interest, you can't force it. And it's a big thing to overcome. But just some children just never go to school,
Yes, and you mentioned that you have your own schools, yes, in the ashram,
Yes.
next to ashram.
Well, so in the ashram itself, we have what's called the Gurukul, which is a school. It's a Vedantic school for boys where they learn how to be, they learn all about being basically a priest in the Hindu tradition. And they learn all the rituals and all the Sanskrit, but then they also get their regular education, reading and writing and all of those things. And they can follow many paths. They can become acharyas, which is sort of a PhD in Vedantic studies, or they can go off, and some go to the military, some go to different things in college. They can pursue what they want. So they get an actual education. And then they also, in the tradition of the Gurukuls, which is the name of the schools in India for studying religious studies, they become scholars, religious scholars and priests in that. And then we also have in Prayagraj, which is where the Kumbh Mela was, the Mahakumbh Mela was last year, we have another Gurukul that has also girls in. So it's girls and boys. And then we have a girls' school that's not a school of Vedanta for the children, but it's a regular school in Rishikesh that we have that has girls and boys. And then there's different places all up into the mountains and everything. We have a blind school. We have schools for all kinds of different children. We have a school that's very heavily based in science and studies of medicine that is for, I would say, very talented intellectual children as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. So why do you think, because Ganga is a goddess and goddess is so revered in yes, in India, so why are women treated in this way in many places in India?
This is a big subject. It's a big subject. It's tradition and it's the patriarchy, and it takes time to change hearts and minds. Sabiji gives a very beautiful speech. She said, you cannot worship the goddess in the temple and then go home and beat your wife. These things are not in alignment, and I'm not justifying it at all. I'm just saying it's been this way for a very long time, and it is changing. And you will see in different level. You know, India is so diverse. You have the poorest of the poor people, like the poor like you've never seen ever, and then you have the richest of the rich like you've never seen ever. I mean, billionaires, and you know, the Ambani family that has just so much money. It's not normal. And so they have these incredible stretches of education and wealth and, you know, societal experience. I mean, you can be standing there and there's a beggar, and then around the corner is a millionaire's house. So it's all there. And I feel that, like, from, say, the working class, the people who go to work and are educated, it's changing so very rapidly within their worlds. Equality, women in India are so, if you meet an educated Indian woman, you will know, because she's got her own voice, her own ideas. She has no problem sharing her truth. She's standing in her power. And there's such an an action-oriented group of people that are really trying to pull the women up. It's happening. But, you know, when you see the news, you see only the very worst. And then you have, you know, people who are very uneducated, who are living in a tradition that they don't know anything differently. And so you're having to start with things like giving people water, giving people education. Education is the thing that changes. It changes the whole society. And so without access to that, then it's very difficult to change. And it's just a patriarchal society that has gone unchecked for a long time because there was no women rising up. But in the same time, India has had a female prime minister. The US has not had a female president. I mean, you know, so you can't say that it's only this way or only that way. It's a huge diversity. And you have Prime Minister Modi, who really holds a vision of India to be as modern, but at the same time holding his culture. And it's really a fine balance. And he's really trying to bring that in. And the changes that have happened under him are pretty incredible. The education system, all of these things going up. But yeah, it's different than what we know. It's very different. And you can't just say it's just this or just that. You know, and there's so many factors that affect it. But we have, in America, we have the rise of the patriarchy again here. We have these right-wing nationalists that want to take away women's right to vote. They're trying to convince women the only thing they should do is have babies, and they should have them young, and they shouldn't go to college. I mean, they're trying to push us in this opposite direction, whereas India's going this way and we're trying to go this way. So I don't know. It's challenging when you see something that you would never accept for yourself, but you can't tell people how to live. You can only just encourage them to have a different perspective, but that's not even really your job as much as it's to just be part of programs that could help them,
Yeah, when I was there, it was difficult for me that we were in a restaurant and our driver wouldn't eat with us because we had a fixer who was from a different caste, so they had to sit by different tables. And at the beginning, for the first few days, it was difficult for me. But then I decided that this is their world. I can just accept what is. And as you mentioned before, that India is everything. That everything exists side by side. Like there's like horrible smells and beautiful scents, poverty, extreme poverty, and then extreme rich people. And to me, it's like this dance of Shakti. Like in India, is so tangible that this Shakti in every shape and every color and every smell, and then underneath, I feel like there's this Shiva, this consciousness that is observing all of that. And I felt that I was connected to both. Like there was this chaos of feminine energy dancing, and then underneath there was this this witness that was just observing, and I felt I was connected to that all the time. I was
Yeah.
watching from this like distanced place, that I wasn't attached to this whole dance. It was beautiful, but at the same time, I felt that I was in this just observer, and this is
Yeah.
amazing about
I
India.
always say India is just real. It's just really real. And you notice that diversity when you come back to the West. And the first time I came back from India and went back to the Netherlands and I was walking down the street with my dog, I was like thinking, when I'm in the Netherlands, I'm playing the game called the Netherlands. I play by the Netherlands rules. I eat the Netherlands food. I'm playing the game called the Netherlands. But I feel like in India, all games are off. Does that make sense? Like it's
Yes, like
just so
everything is
real.
out. Yes, everything is out. Like
It's
everything.
just all
Nothing
out.
is hidden.
There's no pretense. It is what it is. And it forces you to just adapt in a way. You don't really have it. If you fight it, you're miserable. Just like you can't make plans. You can't, because it's going to do with you what it wants. And I used to say, as I would be getting ready to go back, I always be like, about a week before, things would start running like they do in India in my life. And I'm like, oh, India is starting already. I'm just already, the energy's already connecting. And it's very different. And being back in America now, there's the game called America, which is an interesting game right now, So
Yeah, it's
I'm
almost like India is a state,
looking Hmm?
like India is a state of mind or a state of heart. Like India is just, India is
It's
something
just,
else.
it just forces you just to be and not be attached. It's really the game of letting go and letting go of attachments because you can go. I see it so many times. I just remember just people getting so angry when something wouldn't go their way and they would just spin out, and it would and then while the rest of the world is just going by and they always got to where they needed to go in the right time that they needed to be there but there was such this like I have to make this happen the way that I want it to and there's none of that there it's going to do with you at once. It's going to take you where it wants and you're better off to just say yes because then it'll come out in a very nice way. But if you fight it and try to push it and force it, it won't budge. It
Yeah.
just won't budge.
When you try to
So,
control it, yes, it's like when we were flying from India and then we landed in Istanbul at the
mm,
airport, and everything was so lined up, it just felt so awkward to come from this flowy energy. Suddenly it
yeah,
was like we walk in lines and we have to stand
yeah,
here and it
yeah.
feels so masculine, like this is not real life. Like something went wrong. Like we got so structured that there is no life anymore, that everything is just stiff.
That's why I say India feels real and everybody else feels like the game of whatever that place is you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to add before we finish?
Well, I just think for anybody who would like to go to India, you should go and you should just experience it in your own way and in your own time and go with no expectations, but just go and just be there and just try to come with your open heart and yeah. I feel like, I dedicated my life to service, to serving. And so it's a very different thing of like trying to get something or achieve something or have. But I would think when anyone comes to India, they should just come with this idea of I'm there to serve the the truth and I'm willing to accept the truth. I feel like that's the biggest lesson you can have of just saying I'm willing to face whatever it is that is my life and really discover myself and who I really am. And if you can make that discovery, it's life changing. And so many people come and have that experience. Just they wake up suddenly they realize, wow, there's so much more to life than pursuit of things. And it stops being about things. Starts being about knowing and the peace of knowing and you know, the joy of knowing. And then also to like, then you start to think, how can I help the world? What can I do? And that's the biggest question you can say is how can I help? How can I serve? And that comes from knowing who you are, I think. And so that's all I really have to say about it. I mean, you can go on and say the same thing over and over, but it just, I feel like India is a rife and ripe for that kind of discovery for anyone. It's not a magical place, but it's pretty close, you know. Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
Pretty close to magical. Yes.
Pretty close. You wouldn't, it's just India's bathed in mantra and prayer and in the philosophy of Vedanta. It's just baked into the ground. And so when you walk into it, you join it and you can't help but be touched by it.
It's like devotion, even like in Rishikesh, Ganga Aarti, that it happens every day on the banks of the river, and it's in so many different places, and the whole city changes into this big church.
Yeah. Yeah. And you walk anywhere, you walk in the mountains and just realize holy men have walked and prayed and done their japa mantra walking. And it's just built in and you can't help but just be immersed in it. And it's really special in that way.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was lovely speaking to you. Yeah.
Very grateful. Yeah, blessings to you.
Blessings to you too. Thank you.